I'd call it B-roll.
This is what I'm going to do to your B-roll.
Oh, God. God, that picks up so well, which I'm not happy
like when
about.
I'm going to pick up my tongue into your B-roll.
Hello and welcome to the Games That Made Us podcast. I'm Brent. I'm here with my friend Kirk. Say hi, Kirk.
No, you.
and we're joined as always by our good friend Benny. Say hi, Benny.
No, don't say my name. The Geek Mafia is going to kill me.
Oh no. Hey fellas. How you doing? Yeah, so welcome back everybody. We're excited to be back in my totally not murder garage that I have lined with packing blankets that make it look like I'm intending on chopping one of these gentlemen up and need something as a splatter guard.
I don't have to pay student loans.
They filmed an episode of Dexter here for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. That might be the episode. Image is just like this, and I'll just take GIMP and just put red blood over everything.
That's cool. We were just talking about like whether or not if Brent can run, like if there's any correlation between like having an erection and running. Like,
yeah,
do you run faster, or I mean, do you run slower with a boner running forwards
or backwards?
Yeah, like is it easier or harder to run forwards or backwards with a boner?
And the thing that I don't think that we've fully explored,
or at least the correlation of like which one is like better.
Yeah,
I would say running backwards with a boner is probably easier than running forwards with a boner.
And I think we just need someone more coordinated than me to fully test this. I will say, and we touched on it, but we didn't fully explore that. Just like the blood loss from the erection is probably, making things suboptimal in terms of like getting the highest speed.
Guys, we're gonna have a research grant by the end of this.
I think so.
Someone's gonna give us.
There's
money.
gonna be charts.
Like, inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna transition rapidly away from this and say, Kirk, what have you been playing lately, man?
Not a lot, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a couple days ago, we had to put down a family animal.
Yeah. And
I hadn't been feeling very good since, and I was telling Brent a pretty humorous story not too long ago. So after it happened, the next day, I didn't know if I was going to be like manic or whatever. So my brain snapped me awake. I went to Home Depot, got some stuff to do outside, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit up the liquor store on the way home. And it's like 10:30 in the morning at this point because I'm like, it's on the way back and might as well. So I sporadically almost started crying in the middle of a liquor store at 10:30 on a Saturday morning, and I'm like, I had to stop and collect myself and say, Kirk, now you can't cry in a liquor store at 10:30 on a Saturday morning because people are going to think you're like fucking just got divorced or something. So get your shit together. At least get to the car and we can put on some Seeger or something, and we can have a good cry like a real man.
Yes.
So I only teared up a bit in the car, and just before anyone's just like, he's a bitch. Like, no, I grew up on a farm. Like, death is not new to me, but obviously when it's a family pet and whatever, that's been with your family for years and years and years and years, it's a little different.
Absolutely.
And then when you're there in the vet and you do all that, it's just, and it's more so, at least with me, it's not the idea that the pet is gone, but like just seeing my wife the way she is.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. So, and then I was a manic wreck the rest of the day, just like basically becoming a mini excavator, digging up pipe in the backyard and filling entire wheelbarrows full of dirt, and then eventually just throwing my shovel down and going, fuck it, I'm done.
He was so upset he had to go lay pipe.
I
really
hadn't been playing anything like the past.
And I don't think
days.
you gotta defend anything because
absolutely.
When I have to see off one of mine here sometime in the future, I'm gonna take time off work. Like, I'm not gonna be okay. So,
and if I had to put down one of my kids, I would be very upset. I mean, honestly, I might cry. Benny, what about you? What have you been playing?
Man, I also have not been playing a whole lot lately. I haven't had an opportunity. I've alluded to it, in the last couple episodes, but My wife and I just bought a house, and we've been working, and Brent actually helped me carry a bunch of my heavy shit in over the last week and do some work. So it's been a lot. I managed to fit in a little bit more Vampire Survivors here and there.
Oh, dude.
But
so
I also don't have a computer or really anything available to me right now. So
see, that's why you need one of these little Anbernics, man. One of these little Chinese-made handhelds.
I know, the thing's awesome. Brent showed me that. Did he show that to you, Kirk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's such a slick little
so
unit.
Cute. I love
which
it.
is also Kirk's high school nickname, Slick Little Unit.
Slick little unit. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. When he was swimming, he was especially.
Yeah, when I was a grape smuggler, that was
Yes. Yeah, it was funny. So we were over at my neighbors, the ones that I broke into their house in episode, I think 1 or 2.
I think like episode 1 or 2. We're like, yeah, we broke into someone's house because we were asked to.
Yeah. Yeah. When Brent committed a B&E. But yeah, no. So we were over there for a little barbecue last night, and I pulled out my little Chinese handheld. It's the RG28XX is the one that I just recently picked up. I have several others, but this is the one that I've been super excited about lately. And their teenage son was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just you probably wouldn't be interested in it. It just plays like old games." He's like, can I see it? Because of course he can't show any excitement, right? Like the level, it's just everything is at this tone.
Teenagers
Everything
can't
has to
like
be
something you like.
like weaponized on Wii.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was showing it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, where'd you get it from?" And I was like, "I got it from AliExpress." He's like, "Oh." And so then, like, we go about our thing, and like about 20 minutes later, he comes back and he's like, "I bought one." And he's like, "Can you show me how you put the firmware on it?" I was like, yes, I can.
Dude, you should have been like, I actually bought it from your dad. He has boxes of them in his
Oh,
garage. Like, really mess with them.
They're way in the back though.
Yeah.
So what you should do is you should just tear through all of his tools and everything and see if you can find them in the back. Yeah.
You'll probably have to put everything in the driveway just to get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, he's been hiding them in the walls. So what you need to do is I've got this sledgehammer, and you need to make sure you take down all the drywall on the left side of the house while your dad's gone.
While your dad's gone. Oh, shit, that's right. He put it in the back of his car. Use this hammer to get
in. And then when my neighbor comes over, he's like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
And if you can't find him, I heard he buried he buried a backup box in a unmarked grave in the cemetery.
Yeah. So this is the portion of the episode known as how Brent gets some poor kid diagnosed as schizophrenic.
And gets him to also commit a felony.
Yeah. Well, I have been playing Balatro. Nothing but Balatro. Always Balatro. Balatro from whenever I stop doing things that are active to whenever I pass out at like 4 o'clock in the morning from playing Balatro. I would say it's become a problem, but my wife is just too patient and kind to me for anything to really be a problem. So no, I basically most of the time have this horrible hungover look and sunken eyes and red, just looking like I was up, fucking drinking whiskey until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't. It's just been Balatro. So I love it. Frost from Second Wind. Kirk, you'll know about this Frost used to be on not Zero Punctuation, but The Escapist. And when they all moved over to do that Second Wind YouTube channel, normally his videos are all about here's the existential problems with the games industry or something like cool and philosophical. And his last one was just, I can stop playing Balatro whenever I feel like it. I was like, yeah, I feel you, buddy. But yeah, so that's been my thing lately, and that will come up later on the episode. But today we're going to be talking about a little bit lighter of a topic. We're going to be talking about go-to games, games that when you get home and you have 5, 10, 20 minutes to kill that you consistently go to, something that is either a comfort or something where you can kind of turn your brain off and just go and put a little bit of time into a game. And yeah, so what we're going to do, the format for this one's going to be a little different. We're each going to go around and do like our top 3, not do a super deep dive on any individual one. Some of these we've actually already covered. Some of these we will be covering on future episodes. So this is just something to kind of, a light topic to hopefully spark some fun discussion. So my third pick for this is going to be Pro Gear. This is a 2001 arcade game. It's developed by Cave, and it is a shoot 'em up. And I've talked about this prior on the podcast. I love shmups. It's one of my very favorite genres and has been since I was a little kid. And Cave is a developer that is really well known in Japan. They're less well known here. They are not the originators of, but they are one of the major players in the subgenre of shoot 'em up that are known as bullet hell games. And the reason why I really like bullet hell games, and the reason why I think this one in particular speaks to me as something where I can come in and just kind of turn my brain off, is that as much as they're about shooting things, they're really more about dodging, learning patterns, memorizing the layout of the episode or layout of the individual level. And Pro Gear's a really short game. I mean, it's an arcade style shmup, so I think it's 6 levels is all it is. And the objective for me and the objective for a lot of people who are really hardcore into shoot 'em ups is just to try and get to the point where you're finishing it on 1 credit, on 1 quarter. The genre nerd term for it is 1cc. 1cc this game. I have still yet to do that. I have 2cc'd at one time, which I was very, very proud of. Because the other thing with Cave and their shooters is that they are notoriously punishingly, unforgivingly difficult. And I don't know why the simplicity of just like, okay, I'm just going to boot it up, I'm going to pull it up, and I'm just going to dodge for 5, 10, 20 minutes really appeals to me when I'm stressed. But for whatever reason, that this game has been a kind of a godsend to me. I found it much later in life. Like I said, the game came out in 2001. It originally came out on the CPS2 arcade board system, which, if you know anything about arcade nerd shit, so this was Capcom's system that they used for Street Fighter 2 and Marvel vs. Cap and some other games. But if you just line up the timing of that, okay, so it's the Street Fighter 2 arcade board, and it came out in 2001. This was one of the very last games that was released on that hardware. And it's the only game that Cave ever put out on a Capcom system. So it's really weird. I love it's got this really cool aesthetic. It's sort of like steampunk or like early diesel punk. It kind of looks like a like World War I style, but with massive, Japanese shmup style bosses that take up the whole fucking screen. Cave is known for putting these ridiculous, over-the-top anime plots into all of their shooters. And then you have no idea what the fuck's going on in the actual game. And then when you beat it, it has like a 10-minute cutscene where it just explains what the fuck's been going on the whole time. And it's like, oh, there were children and they were fighting against the evil lords who had taken over the world with their massive creations. And now they get to see their parents again. And you're like, what the fuck? I was just shooting shit. That was all I was doing. I didn't know there was more to this than that.
I've also played Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. The best is Cave has another game called Death Smiles, which is like sort of it's horror themed. It'd be a great like Halloween episode, but it's got these like little witch girls. It's kind of like Cotton or Koryun if you've played either of those. Way over sexualized underage witch girls. Thanks, Japan. And like you play through the whole game, and then at the end, you find out that it's like, oh, they're actually from our world, and they've passed through an interdimensional portal into a dimension with monsters, and then they got magic, and they used it to destroy the evil, like with the power of friendship. And I'm like, this is fucking excellent. Why wasn't this in the whole game? There should have been a little cutscene after every level. But yeah, so my number 3, and I've sunk God knows how many fucking hours into it, would be Pro Gear. Kirk, what about you, man?
Number 3, Stardew Valley. I've sunk so many hours into the game. There's really no true ending, and I know some of you out there are going to be like, oh, well, there is. And it's the ending where you're at the top of the mountain with the mystery man and the ghost of your grandpa, and he's like, you did it, Goku, or whatever. But like, you can still keep playing. The game doesn't end there. You can keep farming and doing stuff. Like, it doesn't end. So, yeah, and then with the recent update they had, was it like 3-4 months ago now? Yeah. I can't remember. Added a little like more.
5 or...
Yeah, I can't remember. It hasn't been too terribly long, but they added like new festivals and whatnot, and it doesn't change anything too drastically. But it's still a lot of fun. I still jump back to it from time to time just for fun, even though I've bought everything.
Yeah,
you really don't need to put in much effort to just make a small difference. And like, if you have like 20 or 30 minutes, it's like, oh, well, I can go and like play a day or two in game time and harvest some crops or plant something, and then just go to bed, save, and then quit. Like, it's nothing crazy.
Yeah, and Stardew Valley is just so goddamn charming.
Yeah, and it's not like it's super inaccessible either. It's on damn near every platform, and it's been around long enough where the game has obviously matured, where there's no bugs. It came out in 2016, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah.
And again, it's on every console. It's on every platform you can think of, so it's hard to not play the game if you have access to literally anything. I think it's even on mobile, on it. Open to mobile now. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, there's an Android port, because I've been playing that on my, I think. Well, yes, I'm fairly confident you can play it Android. If not, you can. There's ways to play it on Android.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one of the things that I really love about that game is that it's kind of accessible at any skill level too.
Yeah.
Because like you can hardcore it and try and get like every achievement and try and, like there's so much to do. But if you're like, both my 7 and 10-year-old play Stardew Valley and have a great time with it, right? And it's one of those games that you can kind of jump into and create your own sort of emergent storytelling in your own path through it, which makes it, I think, much more accessible than a lot of games. Like I think one of the things that we're going to find as we talk about this stuff is it's like you're trying to find something that you can kind of disconnect your brain a little bit.
Yeah, that's absolutely the ethos I'm approaching it from.
Yeah, and Stardew Valley is great for that. Also, Stardew Valley's music is just so calming and chill. There was a concert series of like Stardew Valley music that was going around the United States, and I was like, I really want to go to that. I'm gonna take a Quaalude and just like drop in the backseat.
Take a Quaalude?
Yeah. Just
what are concerts like in 1935, Brent?
Jesus.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
As I drift off to sleep, twirling my waxed mustache.
Although I do hear taking edibles and watching a sumo match is pretty dope, though.
That's
I feel like that would be. I feel like that would be kind of dope.
That does sound pretty great.
Yeah.
I feel like that also could be like the worst nightmares you'd ever had, potentially. Like,
Yeah, depending on how that goes for you. But like, I feel like saying,
whereas like if you did it on acid, that's like asking for your entire psyche to collapse permanently. Like your personhood disappears after
the
you do
sumos
that.
hit each other, and you're like, "Oh my god, they're one person! No!" And like,
The planet's core is gonna explode.
you take off screaming out of the arena. All the Japanese people are like, "What the fuck? Like, what's this problem?" Oh.
Yeah, I was yesterday when I was talking to, I think, Benny, I don't remember if it was just Sean and I talking or if you were there too, but I was talking about the Yakuza games.
Yeah.
And the lead character from that, Kiryu, is just always like, oh, to everything.
And as soon as you did that, there was like a round of it around the garage, including my wife. We're all just like, oh.
And then, and Sean was talking about Shogun, which is such a good show. Yeah. Yeah, no, Stardew Valley is excellent. It's a fucking classic for a reason, man. That game owns. Benny, what about you, man?
I think my number 3 is probably Minecraft. For exactly the same reason that you kind of alluded to, like that, the turn your brain off kind of thing, the like almost an AFK kind of game.
Yeah.
In terms of like you don't need any focus to be able to participate in it, and that's super one of my, like, I have probably hundreds of hours, maybe over 1,000 hours across all the worlds and the seeds that I've had with Minecraft. And I know, Brent, did you ever play on have you ever played Minecraft?
I have. And actually, Kirk and I were talking about this not too long ago. I have played it, but I played it so long ago. I played it when it first came out.
Oh, okay.
When we were in college.
Like when it was still Mojang?
Yeah. And so
there's no hunger bar. You couldn't sprint.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
really long time ago.
It's one of those things where, and I think this is sort of the problem with a living game, is because I'm Schrodinger's gamer. I both have and haven't played Minecraft because
that's fair.
I've seen how different it is today, and I'm like, that's a completely different game. But the core loop is the same.
Yeah,
and the core loop is extremely satisfying.
Yeah, and it's it fits that thing that. Oh God, I was going to say je ne sais quoi, and I'm just not that guy. It fits that kind of. It fits that
I'll kick those fucking chair legs right out of my knee.
Hey, I just said I thought of it. I didn't actually do it.
Episode 12, the guys grunt in various accents. Oh!
Kurt calls everybody a nerd and promptly walks out the room.
The man with server.
Kirk walks out ironically.
Yeah.
Calls everybody nerd.
Yeah, Brooke, before we start recording this episode, the microphone part of the stand broke, and all I did was just twist it to make it tighter. It just snapped off immediately.
That's so weird.
And so we're digging around where we are recording in Brent's house, and couldn't find anything. And I'm like, wait, I'm an IT nerd. I probably have a shit ton of miscellaneous screws in the trunk of my car. And sure shit, I was right. Like I had network rack screws that fit perfectly. So, God damn it, I am a nerd, man.
But
damn it, Brent. Thank you.
Sorry about
ass.
Now, just to kind of wrap up my thoughts on Minecraft, because almost everybody's played it, everybody's seen it, it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous. But I think for a good reason, it's an incredibly satisfying game. I know Kirk's played a lot of it because he hosts a server, and I've played with him a lot. I think it's a brilliant game, and that gameplay loop is which is always like what I notice gets me in games is like that literal loop of what engages me and keeps my my dopamine levels up. Literally is probably a component of it. And that game just pulls you back in hard, and it's one that you can just kind of spin up and play for a while, and then if you get tired of it, there's stakes are pretty low. So it's kind of an easy entry, easy exit.
Kirk, I just died. Can you give me all my shit back? You're the admin, right?
Yeah. And then it's great in its simplicity too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got blocks, you've got pixels, and suicide bombers, and
well, and
that's pretty much all you need.
I think one of the reasons why crafting and building games are so popular is because there is that feedback loop of, I'm going to go out, I'm going to acquire a thing, I'm going to use it to improve my base or improve my equipment. You can see it's the same kind of feedback loop you get from being successful at cards, right? You're seeing that number go up. You're seeing that you have a immediate and quantifiable positive feedback loop.
And
that's a reliable dopamine drip.
Exactly.
And with the components that you're or with the craftable construction element of these games, I just added a game called Valheim to my honorable mentions, which is another kind of crafting. It's real.
Play that. I've heard.
I actually think it's super fun. It's a great game. Another one of those procedural games. But you have, especially for anybody who had also played the same game, you'd be able to look at what the person had rendered, what they'd built, and it's an immediate shorthand for how successful and they are and how much time they put into it. Because it's like with Minecraft, you see certain blocks and you know that person put in a lot of effort to get those potentially, or to construct a certain piece of equipment, or just to do anything. There are certain things from the Nether that you simply could not get in high enough quantities. In the overworld, and that person is delved in pretty deeply.
Or if you work as a team and you start building very intricate railway structures in the Nether, because it's faster to do it in the Nether than it is in the overworld. So
we spent so much goddamn time doing that.
But
it was great.
But you can get from one side of the world to the other in such an extreme,
it's great,
quick amount of time compared to doing the same thing in the overworld.
And it's one of the few on my list that works better as kind of an AFK game, or one of these go-to games with other people. Because a lot of these, by their nature, I'm sure there might be some on our list. If I don't know, I don't think any of us are big World of Warcraft people, but but that could be one of your games very easily on this list. And that would be another exception to this rule, but most of them are going to be single player experiences for the most part, and that's one of the things. Minecraft was always better with our as a group of friends, and Kirk was alluding to we would always connect our bases by rail systems through the Nether. And it felt
we were always far enough apart where Sean couldn't fuck with our shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but that was also one of the cool things. You're on the overworld, and you're literally a world away in some cases. You may be an hour's run from your nearest friend's place, maybe more, because some of us really branched out far. But you if you go through the effort of connecting, you're closer than you think. I don't know. It's also a link back to that dopamine drip, that the gameplay loop, because it's harder to get there. Right. You're down in the Nether. Everything is more dangerous. It's harder to accomplish, but when you do, then the accomplishment has that much more of a feedback, to you in terms of the risk reward thing. So
Well, and also I think it's clearly a successful formula because going to that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I was looking at something not terribly long ago about the most successful indie games of all time by sales. And Minecraft was either 1 or 2. Terraria was like in the top 10, and Space Engineers was in the top like 20. And I'm like, those are all the same game.
Yeah.
Right? Like Terraria is 2D Minecraft. Space Engineers is Minecraft in space.
And it's like a category of its own. Like this,
yes.
Minecraft games.
Yes.
Because they are the ones who set the standard. But that's not a bad thing. It's like...
No, not at all.
It's the same way like how we call Band-Aids Band-Aids and not adhesive medical strips. 'Cause that's what they are. But we say Band-Aids because that's what we all identify it as. Even though it could be a different brand, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So like when you say, oh, this is like a Minecraft game, that's not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's just identifying it as like that's like who created it essentially, or that genre.
Yeah, well, it's like when we did the Super Metroid episode, and we were talking about Hollow Knight. Like Hollow Knight would not exist without Super Metroid, but Hollow Knight is not diminished by its similarities.
Absolutely,
to Super Metroid. Like it's still a fucking fantastic game.
Well, I might. I'm gonna jump on Minecraft a little more if you don't mind, because Minecraft was actually my number 1.
Oh shit!
Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That's perfect.
But I get to see. So I basically have a fucking data center in my basement.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge nerd. I got Foundry server, Plex server, Minecraft server. You name it, I probably have it just on a VM somewhere in my basement that, friends and friends of friends, family, whatever, all use at any given moment. Because, I'm an IT nerd. I get to see a lot of the back end stuff, which also adds to that steady dopamine drip, because I'm the owner admin of the server, so I can see and do all the things that, even though I adhere to the same rules as everybody else, if I have to, I can ignore that,
right?
But only when I have to.
It's God mode.
Yeah, I don't have to do it very often. It's just like, well, like I was alluding to earlier. Oh, Kirk, I died. I fell from a high cliff. And there's times where I've just said, no, like that's part of the risk, man.
Right.
But then it's just like, I know exactly where it is. I just don't know if I can get there in time. I got to go like pick up the kid from school or something. And I'm like, all right, I guess. So I'll jump in and do that. But to go off what Brent was saying earlier, how he doesn't think it's the same game. In a way, that's true. Yeah. However, all the changes that they've made to it have always been for the better.
Yeah.
I can't say in any of their updates ever where it's taken away from the game. They've always added to it. They've never taken away.
Yeah.
So you're always given more shit to do.
Kind of like Stardew Valley, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really is always better with friends, too.
Yeah.
If I ever have a little bit of time, because we still have a bunch of friends that jump on the server I host from time to time, like it's always very interesting where... Oh, I'm not going to name names, but I swear every time when they finally find my house, they build a giant dick out front of it, like out in the distance, and they even go out of their way to like line it up with the sun. So like when the sun comes up, it's like you just see the silhouette of a cock like raising above my house, and they go into such detail too.
And then the music from 2001: A Space Odyssey comes in.
Exactly.
The last one, and
there's
been so many iterations of this over time where they just wrote the word penis in the sky,
nice.
Like in big letters. But the newest one was the most impressive because they went out of their way and used like pink wool blocks to like make it color accurate.
Oh god!
And it was like 3D and everything, and then out of the very tip, like water was spouting out of it.
Oh
Lord.
Lord!
Like they really went out of their way. Like it's tradition at this point.
We have very mature friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously that's something you're gonna do. Like if you just need something to do. Yeah. I don't think their intention was I'm gonna build a giant cock in front of Kirk's house. It's more like I have.
They accidentally built a giant cock in front of your house.
I'm saying they didn't intentionally. But
right.
It was one of those. I just mean like they had 20, 30 minutes. They didn't know what else to do. It's just like, oh well, I found Kirk's house, mansion, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna build a giant cock in front of it.
Yeah.
Because the game has no goal. Like if your goal is to fuck with your friends, oh yeah, that's proof point right there. Build a giant cock in front of Kirk's house. But that's why it's always number one to me, because you could do so many things, and you could do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think having no end state automatically lowers the stakes, like Benny was saying, in terms of a low stakes game, and also like just makes it a much more comfortable and chill experience. Because I think part of the thing that we're going to find as we go around and do these is that these are games that, you know, family stuff, work stuff, whatever's going on, whatever is a stressor in your life, these are like virtual spaces you can come into, and you know, it's somewhere where everybody knows your name.
Yeah. Oh, the cock had a vein in it. Like, no,
Going back to the cock.
no, it was really impressive. There was a vein in it this time with
shit.
with purple wool blocks. So it had like a big vein going around it. They really put some time into it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm rearranging on the fly because my original number 2 was Balatro, which is probably too recent to be my number 2, but fucking Balatro's great.
No, I think it's okay. I realize that like only one of mine is like really from my childhood.
Yeah.
But that's because I have an adult brain now, and what would have kept me what I could have done. Let's draw a line between mentality and between cognition.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a 13-year-old boy at heart, but I definitely have the aging body and brain of a 37-year-old man. So,
God, hang on. I just need a minute. Like I say, Balatro is amazing. I'm gonna bump it down to my honorable mentions just because I feel like it's premature to put it on a top 3 list based on a couple months of playing it. But
that's fair.
Yeah, but goddamn, talking of like dopamine hits, because it's a roguelike. I don't normally like roguelikes. I tend to not like the amount of time that I have to put into a roguelike to learn its systems and understand it just to have my progress wiped. But with Balatro, see, I said I wasn't going to talk about Balatro, and now I'm talking about Balatro. But with Balatro, because it sits on top of a core mechanic of poker, which was a game I already understood, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I could just jump in and start playing without feeling like I needed to be tutorialized to. And everything that they build on top of that foundation, because it's that slow drip of new mechanics, it doesn't really even feel like you're learning. You're just like, oh yeah, of course I understand that what I want is a holographic foil joker with a negative, and then I need to get an Arcana pack to change all my cards to the same value so that I can have 4 of a kinds more often. It's like, wait, hang on. When did that happen? When did I learn that? I don't remember. Maybe I was just born knowing that.
Yeah, my head hurts now.
You're gonna I'm buying it for both you guys, and you're gonna play it. And there's a GitHub project to turn it into an Android application, to package it down as an APK. For God's sake, put it on your phone, because it is the best. It is that game. I've put more hours on it on PC than anything else, but that game is meant for a cell phone, because every run is about 15-20 minutes, which is the perfect like bite size. But like I say, I'm not going to talk about Balatro. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking about Balatro.
Never happened.
Never happened. I'm going to talk about my number 2 is going to be SimCity 4. This is 2003 by Maxis, and SimCity has been a series that was, I should say, was, past tense, a series that I followed very closely. I played SimCity on the Super Nintendo. I played the original SimCity on PC. I played SimCity 2000, even though I don't particularly know why. SimCity 4 is SimCity's final form. There's a reason why no one else has been able to top that, and there's a reason why 21 years later, there's still a thriving community of modders. There's still like new applications being developed tangentially, like the SC4 mapper program that enables you to pull in black and white images and create maps to any size. There's so much stuff that we can do now with this game that we couldn't when it came out, because just computers are beefier. We have more memory. We have more CPU power, and the fact that you can create a like 1-to-1 replication of like the state of New York in SimCity 4 now is just so sweet. But it goes back to kind of what you guys were saying with both Stardew Valley and Minecraft, in that it's a game that, although it does have an end state, that has no bearing at all on the enjoyment that you get out of the game. And I love, my favorite thing to do with SimCity 4 is to put like artificial constraints on myself, to say, okay, I'm going to, create a map of a tiny little island that, even if I filled up every available tile with, high density residential, I couldn't get it past like 10,000 people. And how do I make that a functioning and viable economy that's going to, that I'm never going to go into debt? Things like that. And that's the joy of SimCity 4 for me, is that it's a toolkit. It's not it's more of a platform than it is a game. It lets you design what game you want it to be. It's been so many different things to me over my life. Like, it's been I'm going to see if I can make a 1-for-1 replication of my hometown, which was relatively easy because my hometown had like 150 people in it. So that wasn't, that took me about a week. That wasn't hard. But and it's also been let's see how gigantic a town I can make. Like, what can I max pop it, which used to be the end state of the earlier SimCity games. Can I make the most environmentally friendly city that I can? And it's just something, and actually this is another uniting factor of this and Stardew Valley, is it's very rapidly become one of my kids' favorite games. Both my girls play SimCity 4 quite a bit, and I think that, when we're talking about a game that's 21 years old, and you can put it in front of somebody who is, 7 or 10, and just say, go. And they love it, and they ask for their own Steam account so that they can have their own save and world and not have to be constantly bumping into dad's stuff. I think that speaks pretty highly to that game and its staying power and its ability to, just continue to affect people decades after its release.
For sure. I think that the whole sim genre, wherever you draw the line out there, is probably would probably be a lot of people's top 3. I never really got into those. I did more RTS than like the kind of sim thing. Like, so in fact, I would probably, I don't have it written down, but like, Age of Mythology is probably one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So I can see why that would be.
AOE 2 was a game that I stuck a massive amount of time into.
The reason why they keep patching the goddamn thing, keeping it alive.
Well, and there's still like with AOE 2 at least, there's still like big time tournaments, and it's a game that is kind of evergreen. And that was kind of like, that was PC gaming in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was kind of year 3. It was FPS, it was RTS, and it was sim. And like you were one of those 3 flavor of gamers, or multiple, which I loved RTS in that era, like
or MMO, but everybody kept them in cages.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We just kind of poked at them. And we're like, go over there. You're scaring me. And you also shower.
Also shower.
But yeah, no, I was StarCraft, Command and Conquer, and then all the sim games, and then Europa Universalis, which we'll have to talk about at some point. But yeah, so for me, number 2, SimCity 4. Kirk, what about you, man?
That's funny you were talking about SimCity, because not super related, but just it's another.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Civ games.
Yeah.
So another kind of just on a different scale, where instead of the one city like in SimCity, this is the whole civilization.
Yeah.
So
like
and not. Yeah.
That's the name of our game.
Yeah. But to me it was and it's any of the Civ games. Pick one. Yeah, there you go. So not specifically like Civ 4, 5, 6, whatever, or even Alpha Centauri for that matter, or anything like that. Yeah. Any Civ or Civ related game is number 2, because it's I go to Civ not like how I go into Minecraft, where it's like, oh, I got a little bit of time to kill. Civ is just like, hey, do you really not have anything planned this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those games where it's like, oh, I'm going to start and it's 5 p.m. Next thing you know, like you blink and it's 2 a.m. and you're like, yeah, you go from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. really quick and you're just like, holy shit, it was just supposed to be one more turn. What the fuck? But it's always a really fun game. And every time you play, it's not the same. It's never the same.
No.
So I always enjoyed its uniqueness for that, because I never feel as if I'm playing the same game. Yeah. I mean, you are mechanically, but the world itself that you have to play in, and I always will try to branch out and play as other different civilizations. Sure. So I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to play as Germany this time. I want to play as Egypt or Japan or something.
Yeah.
So it adds that extra little shift to it. There's so much versatility to those games where I never feel bored. And there's also, if you just want to go achievement hunting, there's so many achievements. I think with like Civ 6, it's like 270 some achievements or something wild like that.
Well, and one of the things that I'd mentioned earlier was a game that enables you to kind of decide your own victory conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does the end state look like to you?
Mm-hmm.
When are you satisfied with how the game has gone? Instead of that artificial constriction on it. And I feel like that's kind of the name of the game with Civ, because they've always had, even since the very beginning, so many different victory conditions that honestly, like, you could kind of look at Civ as kind of the great granddaddy of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like one of the things I do every time I start a new Civ game is I turn the game limit off. If I don't meet that victory condition, then it's just not worth it to me. I don't want the game to end before at least myself or the computer get to that end game.
So I haven't played Civ. So what's the game limit? What is that, like a timer running?
There's a quote unquote turn limit.
Okay, gotcha.
Where I don't know off the top of my head, but the game is just like, all right, it's basically meant for, all right, if nobody has won, nobody wins. That's how I interpret it. It's like you're all losers. But really, it's what it is. It's like, all right, you're all losers. No, there's certain...
If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah. But I will, always turn off any sort of, turn limits, anything like that. I always turn off. I turn off religious victories just because it's... I like to put the computer on random. And if someone gets a civilization that is known for their religion, it's like, oh, great, I've already lost.
Right.
Because a lot of their inherent bonuses that they get go specifically towards that win condition. And it's just not as exciting to me anymore. Where I used to be like, oh, well, I'm going to be like basically in an atheistic state, and I'm still going to win, you dick. Like, it just takes too long, and it's not as exciting because there's not as much conflict.
Yeah.
because religious victories don't, oddly enough, have a lot of conflict. You know, like in our real world, religion deals with like, in Civ it would be a conquest condition, but religious victory is just everyone has to believe in your religion,
Right?
and that's boring and dumb. Because you get like 2 units, or I guess 3 if you want to count the gurus. And it's just not as exciting. So that's one I turn off. But like honestly, the ones that are the most interesting are like cultural victories.
Yeah,
that is wild. Because the mechanics behind that are a little more robust. At least this is with the newest Civ game. Older Civ games don't have that complexity. But the fact that the games keep getting that complex, and how you're like, oh well, you're a democracy, well screw you guys, we're communists, so we're not gonna be your friends anymore, like stuff like that.
Friendship is over with communism.
Yeah, but it's always that's what keeps those games
new
fresh.
Best friend monarchy.
Going back to like why it never feels like the same game every time, because more often than not, some of those, like depending on the difficulty, someone, like even if it's the same civilization you played last time, if depending on the difficulty, they will pick something else that better matches their geography and their resources available. Yeah. So that's very interesting to see as well. So yeah, that's a go-to game where it's like, hey, do you have like a day plus to kill? Civ.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the same thing with SimCity. Like I'll never sit down and play SimCity for 15 minutes.
Yep.
But if it's like, well,
are you going to be on a plane for 8 hours?
Yeah.
Civ.
Yes.
That flight will be over very quickly if you're playing Civ.
There was a week, this was several years ago, where my wife and the kids flew down to Florida to be with extended family, and I couldn't go. I had work, and there was a metric shitload of SimCity 4. Like by the time they got back, there was like 700,000 or 800,000 people in my like metro. It's like, okay. No, hell yeah, I love the Civ games. Benny.
Yeah, so I just rearranged mine on the fly. I was thinking about it.
Dude, I did the same thing.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up the one that I just demoted in my in my honorable mentions, but
fuck this game.
And I suspect it's been long enough that there's not going to be any controversy over this one, but mine's No Man's Sky.
Okay.
That's a good one.
I have been playing it since literally the day it dropped.
Yeah.
In its incomplete state that everyone fucking hated and thought that they were total dicks for not including the multiplayer. Like, I loved it from that moment, and just the seamless gameplay is kind of feeds into everything I wanted the game to be, and in many ways, everything it is. I remember in the marketing, I can't remember the guy's name. The lead developer on the game. In a lot of the interviews and marketing leading up to the release, he was talking about how as a kid, he would pick up a sci-fi book and like look at those covers, because those like sci-fi books from like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and like the cover art, and whoever gets to be the guys that like develop, like draw that, or the people that make that, just I want to like commission them or like have them live in my basement or something. But because they inspire such wonder, and that's something that he
not terrifying at all.
I just want to cage up some artists and keep them in my basement.
I'm just thinking Brent's
Then he throws bread down the stairs into his basement. He's like, hey, what have you drawn? He's like, you haven't given me any materials. You gave me a stick of chalk and a blank wall in your basement. I can't do too much with this, man.
And a hot dog with a bite already taken out of it.
I'm an artist. I need brie and wine.
Yeah. And he's like, try harder, slams the door.
But those sci-fi covers from back then, like, just And even now, like they're mystifying and like they inspire awe because they're supposed to. It's sci-fi, right?
That's the goal.
And he was talking about those covers, like, had kind of the same feeling that I had. Like I wanted to be able to go to that planet and look up and see that moon on the horizon and then fly to it. There's this alien scenery and maybe alien flora or fauna. And then I wanted to be able to go out and go to the thing that I could see on the horizon. And I didn't want to have it be a loading screen and have this curated experience where ultimately someone put everything down with a paintbrush in the game. And that wasn't the case. The procedural, I think it's no surprise that my number 2 and number 3 are both procedurally generated games. And I'm actually going to break away from that for entirely different reasons in my number 1. But it works for me, and it has since the first day. And I know Kirk and I actually both played at release and didn't have the problems with it that other people did, because I didn't get into it to fly, across this fictional galaxy to meet a friend on a planet.
Yeah.
I got into it because I wanted to be the only one that ever saw that planet.
Well, and I think it felt like, and I
have you played it?
I haven't played it.
Okay.
But I've seen enough of it to get the vibe, and it does look super fun. But it felt like kind of the spiritual successor to like Elite.
It very much is.
Yeah, where it's there is a joy to be had in just pure exploration, and I don't think there's a ton of games out there right now that satisfy that.
Yeah, and so I think another part of it is like it encourages comfort with solitude.
Yeah.
So the universe is full of intelligent life, and you can meet beings regularly on every planet you go to. Pretty much. There are some that are locked down, but like there are places you can go in that game universe that should be, the farthest flung places, and there's going to be something living there. There's going to be a space station, or there's going to be something.
So there's a bug flying. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just like,
Kirk is doing like a swim stroke in the middle of the room for no reason.
It looked like you were like petting something, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, it was like a little gnat, so like just me moving my arm up like that caused enough wind turbulence where it flew over this way. So I'm like,
it reminds me of like it reminds me of like walking through a Walmart parking lot, and you like walk through one of those like invisible spider webs, and so like no one else can see it, but you're just like, oh god, no, and like flipping out, and like someone on the other side of the aisle from you is just like, oh, honey. Let's keep moving. Stay away from the crazy man.
Yeah, you're like ushering your kids away, and just like,
or like when I have thousands of ants crawling on me because I'm coming down.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we're talking about different things.
Oh, okay. Sorry. What
are we though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway,
yeah.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky is a really good one, and the fact they keep updating it and adding new shit for free.
Well, and free. Yeah, that's like to not monetize every conceivable bit and byte of the fucking content.
Yeah. They owned up to it. They were just
refreshing.
Like, we fucked up. Like, we promised you this game. We didn't give it to you, but we promise we'll make it better. That's what I respect the most about them. And Hello Games, right?
Yeah, it is Hello Games.
Yeah.
And what I like about how they've continued to develop it is that it's clearly not it's clearly not a money-making endeavor to release new content. Of course, they're going to make money, but it's to continue selling the game because it's good. Yeah. But everything they do seemingly to date has maintained the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, like Kirk said, Hello Games fulfilled their end of the bargain in the end by giving players their multiplayer experience, but it still meets me where I am with the solitary experience. I want to be able to go to a planet, high risk, laden with a lot of valuable materials.
Yeah.
And spend a few hours making hauling those materials, like risking, you know what I'm talking about, Kirk, like risking the sentinels that guard the planets with the high value materials.
Yeah.
And carting their stuff back and selling it and making, and improving my outfitting.
That same loop that we were talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about other players. But so like flirt with the solitary, the solitude of it all, but also it's about the wonder of space exploration and it works.
But like, how many hours did you spend just finding the perfect spot for your base? Yeah.
What I spent a lot of time doing was farming resources and hopping systems until I found one that had one of those super cool, like giant class ships. I can't even remember what it's called. It's like a class A, or it's whatever, like the biggest class ship that you can own, like the freighters. You know what I'm talking about? I spent hours farming enough money and then hopping systems until I could find one that I could buy, so I could have one. The one that I got is basically a Star Destroyer from Star Wars.
Nice.
That's basically the one that I ended up buying. So
Mine was always nuanced. I never really cared to get a freighter. Mine was just like, I want to find the most beautiful planet that this world can come up with, or that this universe can come up with, and I'm gonna find the perfect spot to start building my base. Yeah. And then I'm gonna expand from there, and then see where I go. I always gravitate to that aspect of the game, not like the economy, but like almost like the Sims version. Yeah. I'm gonna build this nice house exactly where I want it, how I want it.
So that's exactly what I wanted. So some of the default freighters are like the easiest ones to find are fucking ugly and they're small. But if you get the cooler, bigger ones, you can build, like, there's base building inside of the structure. So like you can like build your base inside. So I wanted to be able to take the cool base that I wanted everywhere I went. That's kind of what I wanted to do.
There you go. Well, and I think it's interesting too because, like, Kirk, it kind of sounds like your approach to it is almost more like you're leaning more into that like Minecraft Stardew Valley kind of thing of like, hey, I want to create this perfect environment to inhabit, and like that's again, like I think that's that.
Yeah, the world I found it had cats, but they had 4 eyes and they were fucking adorable. They were cats, and they are so fucking cute, and they are everywhere, and they are very small, and I was just like, okay, well, this is obviously where I'm gonna build this base.
This is so for Kirk, No Man's Sky is Kirk's Marlon Brando simulator. I'm just gonna go somewhere and I'm just gonna live with all the cats.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, you'd like
Nyan Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Well, and in Godfather, that was a stray cat. Like, that was just on set. Yeah. Like, a lot of people don't know that. Like, that wasn't just like that was a stray cat that just came on set and it fell in love with him. So he was just in their pet, and it made it just all the better.
Oh my god, yeah,
yeah,
it's the best. Sorry, there's this just real quick. So
nothing's real quick here.
That's true. We got plenty of time. We've only been talking actually for about an hour. We've got 30 minutes of just like nonsense at the beginning.
Yeah, talking about boners and running backwards and stuff.
The boner conversation is going to at least get cut from this episode. I'm not saying that's going to get cut permanently.
Dude, supplemental episode.
I'm saying supplemental, just boners.
Yeah.
But no, so there was I had mentioned, and actually you and I were talking about this yesterday, was for a long time there, the computer that we had in our house was an Apple Performa. And so there were no games. Nobody made games for Mac. That wasn't a thing. And I found this shareware game that was a black and white vector-based game that was the game is a very strong word for what this was. But it was a one-to-one simulation of the known universe. And the only controls were like, you use the D-pad to move up, down, left, right, and then there was an accelerate and a brake. And that was it. But so you couldn't land on a planet or anything, but you could go to it. So, and again, it's a black and white game. So you'd start hovering over Earth, and then you could, like, okay, well, I want to go to Alpha Centauri. And then it would realistically, smoothly accelerate up till you were going many, many, many times the speed of light. And then you would shoot way the fuck past whatever you were trying to go to because you were 6. And but it was amazing because, like, it was just that pure sense of exploration. There was no goal. There was no you couldn't do anything when you got to the place. But it would just be like you'd get to orbit of Proxima Centauri and you're like, I'm over Proxima. This is Proxima Centauri. Mm-hmm. This is so cool. And then you'd sit there for a minute and go, okay, I'm going somewhere else now. And then you and it dug its way into my, like, kid brain so hard.
You just I promise that we'll move off this topic momentarily, but you just alluded to one of the great things about this game that you've probably seen some gameplay, but one of the things that I neglected to mention is one of the reasons I love it is that it's seamless.
Yeah.
You can do everything in real time. From planet to planet, from location to location, you descend.
Recommend it, but you
could. You wouldn't want to do that, but you traverse the atmosphere in real time. Like the planet,
that's so sick.
The planet is not separated from you by a load screen. It is separated from you by
time,
atmosphere, and by exactly. Like it's all seamless. It's all really there. There's absolutely a load screen there.
Sure, and it's hidden.
And it's it's the atmosphere. It's you breaking through. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's beautiful. And I love that, being able, like, and on planets with very close moons, that is one of my favorite things to do, is like you land, you explore, you kind of catalog the organic and inorganic components, and then it's that moment from the sci-fi novel cover where you look up and you see the moon on the horizon, you get in your ship, and then you just fly to it. You don't even need to use like the faster than light. Like you can just use the boosters and get there. Then just location to location without stopping, without any break in gameplay, without you losing control at any point. Putting that at your fingertips was really what drew me in and what draws me back from time to time.
Yeah, well, I'm convinced. That sounds sick as hell, and as a kid who is like grew up a gigantic sci-fi nerd, like I was the Star Trek kid, which everybody picked on the Star Trek kid. It's like, but yeah, just the idea of like.
Speaking of which, give me your lunch money.
Oh, sorry, wait, hang on. All right, so I'll run through my honorable mentions real quick. I already talked about Balatro, which, fuck yeah, that game is amazing. Seriously, do buy it. If you've got $20, buy Balatro and Vampire Survivors, and you have an infinite amount of gameplay. Neo Turf Masters, we had a whole episode on that. Go look that up. Neo Turf Masters is, and it's funny because I was mentioning that we were going to do this episode to Erin, and she's like, you already talked about Neo Turf Masters. That's your game when you're stressed. What the fuck are you going to talk about? It's like, I've got other things. I play other games too.
It's not all about you.
You don't know me, wife.
You don't know me. It's not like we've been together for 17 years. So Neo Turf Masters, definitely. I really like.
God, have we really been out of college that long?
Well, I was in college when I.
Right, but still.
Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a minute. I also really like sports management games. So both the Football Manager and the Out of the Park Baseball series have been huge for me. Out of the Park Baseball, I've been playing on and off since I was like 12. So that's a really cool series. If you like sports management games, and particularly like what we were talking about earlier with no end state, Out of the Park Baseball lets you create a fictional baseball universe with fictional leagues, fictional tournaments. It's completely customizable. You can do whatever you want with it. If you want to have, the 20s Yankees team put in a league with all guys from Syria and then have a winter league set in South Africa, you can do that. That's a thing you can do. There's no rules. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and as somebody who also really likes designing logos and uniforms, and I have a graphic design bent to my free time, Out of the Park Baseball allows me to do that because you can create all that stuff. Ocarina of Time is, I had mentioned this earlier, it's my favorite game. So I oftentimes will pull it up and just plow 30 minutes into it. It's not particularly a relaxing game.
You'll lay 30 minutes of pipe into that game.
Yeah.
Like how?
But it's not a particularly relaxing game, but it's a game that I have memorized forward and backward, and I can just come in and play for a minute.
I think I'm betting that we all have a couple of those. I was actually thinking about that my number one is kind of not relaxing, but it is relaxing to me.
Yes. Yeah, and I would argue that like Pro Gear from my list earlier, like I think most people would find that incredibly stressful, but I have a brain disease where I find shmups very relaxing. Katamari Damacy.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Which and again, like some people might not find that relaxing at all when you're rolling over people and they're going, "Oh God, no!" But the Japanese pop music playing. Insert Que Sera right here, because
I know you love me. I wanna word you up into my life. Let's roll up to be a single star in the sky. I hear you calling me. I wanna word you up into my life.
And even just the theme, which, real quick, I don't know if you guys know, the opening theme to Katamari Damacy, the la 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 la. That's the composer for the music from the game. He was complaining to one of the other developers that he didn't know how he wanted to orchestrate that, and they pulled out their phone and recorded him. And then just stuck it in the game. He had no idea until the game came out.
That's awesome.
Which is, I love it because there's a drum beat where he goes da 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 da, and that's just him.
That's fantastic.
It really is. Kerbal Space Program, which there's something about seeing the adorable little green men go and so maybe I just like seeing like adorable things destroyed. That does make sense for a stress relief game. Okay, I'm just putting this together now. I put Stardew Valley on mine as well. It's so chill and relaxing. I put What the Golf because I love What the Golf so much, and seriously, do guys go pick that up. I'm talking as much to the audience as to you guys. And then my last one is Gradius 3. Gradius 3 is just like I could this list could have been nothing but shmups. I could easily have put Death Smiles. I could have easily put Darius Gaiden. I could have easily put R-Type Leo on this, but I like I said, I just play a lot of shmups. So those are my honorable mentions for what it's worth. Kirk, what about you, man?
My honorable mentions are more so. And the reason why they're honorable mentions is because they're either too new or I'm not sure if they'll really fit into the, like, is it going to be my go-to game a year from now?
Yeah.
Or the time has already passed. And it used to be a go-to game, but it's still important because, they still have games that they make for the same thing.
Yeah,
my two honorable mentions are going to be Vampire Survivors.
Fuck yeah.
It's a really great go-to game. However, it hasn't been around long enough yet for me to really know, like, am I going to be using this a year from now? That's the only reason, like, it's not part of my list.
That's why I took Balatro off my top 3, too.
Yeah.
It's also why Vampire Survivors isn't one of my top 3.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would be. Like, if it had been around long enough, if it came out a few years ago and I was still playing it, absolutely. It really it hits.
Probably would have been all three of ours.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong. It's a great game, and I like the fact that, like, I've gotten so good at it where once I get certain artifacts, I'm just like, I can just like watch an episode of Game Grumps or Oni Plays or something on another screen or whatever I have on Plex.
Absolutely.
And then just sit there and just watch me win. Like,
You can put it in endless mode and just sit in place and let everything come to you. Yeah.
Just watching the like hordes of bad guys just burn is
Yeah.
very, like,
absolutely.
it's great. Yeah, it's very chill.
But I just don't. As great as it is, ask me a year from now.
Absolutely.
And if I'm still playing it, then yeah, it'll make it on my go-to list games. The other one is used to be a go-to game in my younger years. The original Sims game.
Yeah.
Not like Sim City, but The Sims.
Sims.
Because what better way to kill time in your life than to emulate someone else's life?
Absolutely.
And control every aspect of that. And then find creative ways to kill them when you really get bored.
Yeah. Put a wall around them.
Yeah.
Put
them in a pool. That was a classic one. Then take the ladders out.
Yeah.
But like in my junior high and high school years, that was a game.
I'm extremely aware that I'm in a room with a bunch of blankets strapped to the wall right now.
As we discuss different creative ways to kill people.
I usually didn't get that weird, but at least like in Sims, I did get creative enough where I would like make skins for characters.
Yes.
Like I would copy the Grim Reaper skin or skin and robot skin like in the game directory, and then make that an actual outfit. So if I want to be like, I'm going to be a robot today, I could do that. And there was a good community back in that day where
absolutely
they'd make cool shit like that, where it's just like, oh, do you want to look like Neo from Matrix? Because that around the same time frame, like you could do that. Like,
yeah, no, so, it was the era of black trench coats and black sunglasses.
Yep. But there was all sorts of stuff like that. And then again, I sunk so many hours into that game.
Yeah.
And then obviously I haven't kept up. There's so many microtransactions in that game anymore. I watch Pam play it. I'm like, how are you just not angry logging in?
Yeah. Well, I just want to play. That's one of the things that EA has done that pisses me off so much is I just want to play Sims or Sims 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I would pay them for it. I would happily pay them for just give me like a good old games version of that game that just plays on modern hardware without having to go to fucking My Abandonware and deal with all the viruses on that fucking website and how broken everything is, and the one Serbian guy who comments on instructions on how to make it play that don't work, and he's just laughing and masturbating in the fucking room in Christina. Like, no, like I just want it to work, and I want my tinkering to be on my weird Chinese emulation handheld, not on my fucking PC.
Yeah, I see there could be I could see the potential for an entire episode where we could devolve into just philosophical posturing about the state of abandonware and
it's so depressing.
Like the right to host a server for a game that doesn't exist anymore. Like, what if I want to play the original Phantasy Star Online? Well, I know there's a reboot of that, but what if I want to play the original Dreamcast? Like, some of these companies release, the software to run their servers, but that's the exception, not the rule. And so I hear what you're saying is what I'm also saying.
Yeah, it can get frustrating, but yeah, I too spent more time than I'm comfortable discussing on the original Sims. It was something that my mom and I went back and forth and played together.
And admit it, you had like full nude like skins.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, all of us did.
Was
all of us did.
Was that something that people didn't do? I thought.
Oh yeah, when you were a teenager, you had the nude skin.
It was like the hot coffee mod. Like everybody had it. Everybody tried it at least once. Like, let's be honest.
Like, yeah,
tiny
pixelated
boobies.
Yeah, we got there. Woo!
Back around.
All right.
Yes.
But those, no. It's like you're absolutely right. Like 12-year-old Kirk playing Sims, of course, getting the nude skin mod or whatever, and copying them in the directory. And I'm like, my pants got smaller. It's just part of growing up, man. It's all good. Don't feel bad. Like, we've all been there.
Try running.
Yeah, try running.
We got to figure out how fast you are.
Yeah.
Hang on. Probably I would have been faster at 12.
Yeah.
But yeah. Betty! Honorable mentions.
Yeah, what about your cock? No, I mean your honorable mentions.
I mean, what?
So one of mine, of course, is Chrono Trigger, but I've already spent 6 hours talking about it, so we can move on from that forever for the rest of eternity.
Chrono Trigger, Part 4.
I'm
Shut the fuck up.
I'm an open world slut, so a couple of the ones that ended up on my list were, well, if you can become
Open world.
a navigable world that full of adventure and wonder that I can explore. Oh my God, Brent is an open world.
Yes.
So I've got like Breath of the Wild.
I've got Marmalade.
It
makes sense.
That's not the point, you fucking weirdo. Why'd you look at me when you said that? Like, I got Marmalade. He's looking at me. I'm like,
I don't understand.
I don't have anything for that. Leave me alone. Don't look at me with the fuck me eyes. Like, that's weird, man.
All right. Open world slut. Go.
So I've got Breath of the Wild on here because
Yeah.
the Switch kind of revolutionized gaming in terms of like taking, at the time, taking AAA
Sure.
anywhere you wanted to go, like, that same quality. So
What about the Vita?
at the time,
PSP.
I hear weird irrelevant echoes in it. I don't know.
Or the Wii U.
No, those are, they laid the groundwork for sure. But
yeah.
but
What about
let's-
VMUs on the Dreamcast?
What about mobile gaming?
Hey, the VMUs on the Dreamcast were super cool because they had, you could lock them together. You could trade save
I
files
like
with each
Chow
other.
Gardens too.
I love my Dreamcast. I still have my
Plural of
Dreamcast.
Chow is chaos.
What is it? Is this like a bus stop?
I-
Like, what is it?
Did Brent break? I don't.
Sorry. Breath of the Wild.
I'm just confused and really trying to follow. No, so right after I started dating my now wife,
Yes.
I picked up a Switch and Breath of the Wild. It was like the sole reason that I bought the Switch, pretty much. And I'm okay with that. I have a number of other games now, but like it was worth it just for that. And
It's an incredible game.
at the time I had a much more forgiving job and a younger body. And so I stayed up late playing Breath of the Wild all the time, basically, 100% of the game a couple times. And I still go back to it sometimes just to get that, again, that gameplay loop, just that start over a new file. And then even when you know where everything is, it's still like, it's big enough that it's still fun. Like it works. I kind of actually omitted it, but like I could put anything by Bethesda on here for the same reason.
For sure.
Like,
I thought about that too, but I'm like, they're too old where I don't come back to it anymore. So
yeah, I played the fuck out of Skyrim.
Yeah.
But I don't go back to it very much anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic game that's broken as shit, but I don't care. I love it.
I put so many hours into Oblivion, but I haven't gone back and played that in forever.
I haven't either. But they're absolutely worth playing, and it almost deserves a spot on here.
yeah. And you had the nude mods, admit it.
I didn't have the nude mods for Oblivion because I played Oblivion on the Xbox 360. And
What about the Skyrim?
Enough. I've never played Skyrim.
Oh, well, get the nude mods.
Okay.
And some high res texture
I have
packs.
Yeah,
porn now.
And then you'll
like
revert back to your teenage state, and you'll be like, "My pants got smaller again." And then,
get some like Nexus mods for like the high definition textures and everything. It's, it's still a beautiful game. I mean, it really is.
Or get the silly ones where all the mud crabs sound like Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama. It's always
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's
or the one
amazing.
that turns all the dragons into Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or Thomas the Train Engine.
Yeah,
Thomas the Train Engine. That's fucking terrifying. Though.
It is. Staying in the same vein as other open world, one that I also demoted from my list while we were talking is actually Elden Ring, and it's because it's still relatively new, but it's seriously one of my top 5 games of all time.
Okay.
You have the nude mods, man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just like, no.
Katamari Damacy, you have the nude mods.
Yeah, the
admit
nude
it.
mods, admit it. Yeah.
Just for the King of Space. Like, yeah. God. His fucking package is intimidating, bro.
Yeah.
We've broken
Yeah,
Betty.
like-
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you're like Godfrey the Grafted Nude. I know it. Yeah, he's got plenty of graphs, let me tell
So
you.
yeah, there's got to be a dick on there somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you actually alluded to like the Soulsborne or
Yeah.
Souls type Soulsborne,
Yeah.
earlier, and it's again, open world. It's just I won't beleaguer it too much. It's just it's beautiful. I think they've kind of optimized the gameplay of all of that series to this point.
Yeah.
They added a jump.
That was big.
It's just a fantastic game. It's so goddamn good. George R.R. Martin collaborated on writing it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was one of the writers. It kind of came up with like the overall mythos of the game. It's
stunningly beautiful too.
Yeah.
A lot of the environment is just gorgeous.
It's the only From Software game that I've been like seriously tempted by in a while.
It is still aggressively difficult.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the easier From Software games. Like it is easier than pretty much everything, but it is still very difficult. But I didn't think I'd ever like those games. I didn't think they'd ever be one of the genres that I wanted, and then somehow I found myself.
It just clicked.
It just and it took a couple times.
Yeah.
I ended up getting Dark Souls 2 on my Dark Souls the original on my Xbox several years ago, like 2016, I think it was.
Yeah.
For like as part of like the like Xbox Live, like the subscription service or whatever. And I played it a couple times and it never really clicked, but I always kind of liked the aesthetic and finally went back and eventually that clicked. Yeah. And then when I kind of saw what was going on with Elden Ring, I jumped back in. And then since then I've gone back and played Dark Souls 3, which is fantastic. And I've started kind of branching out into some of the others like Bloodborne. So, but Elden Ring will always be, like I said, it is a top 5 game for me, and it will probably be one that I regularly go back and play just because it's such a big world and it's so upsetting and awesome to traverse and to work your way through. And I know Kirk has played it too.
Oh, a lot. Like probably too much.
Vampire Survivors. We've said all that needs to be said about that. That's on my list. One other super notable mention, and then I'll move on. My last super notable mention is The Outer Wilds, not to be confused with The Outer Worlds. It's not the FPS game like the action FPS RPG from a few years ago. This is like an indie space exploration game from Annapurna Interactive, and it's another. So when we did Link's Awakening. And we described that as like a sweetly cute game or like a darkly sweet game, I think is how we did it. And I'm trying to remember the words we used, but
I was just like, it's adorable. They just kept saying adorable.
It is, but it's like, it's sad and kind of like, and it's,
and the motif of all of it.
Yeah. The underlying implications of the game are pretty dark and kind of, and they're sad. They just are. The Outer Wilds is very much like that, where it's like it's extremely cute. It's like there's a motif that is not necessarily essential to the game, but is, well, I know you could argue it is, but there's this motif of like folk music being part of the core exploration mechanic of the game. But you fly around this tiny universe where the planet that you start on is when you take off, you can actually use a jetpack to achieve orbit from a sprint.
Nice.
It's fantastic. It's such a cute, difficult, sad game, but it's the best and it's the worst, and it's so the core gameplay loop is literally a loop, and I'll go over this real quick because it's kind of fascinating. So after you get off of your home planet to start, you're basically like your civilization's next up and coming space cadet, and they're all about exploring their universe. And so they've created this little capsule rocket pod that you can shuttle, that you can fly around in, and you leave. And sometime after, you've done some exploration, maybe you fly to the moon and land there, and you find some ruins there, and there's some guy who's there doing some research. And then the sun explodes,
Oh,
and you
I
die,
hate it when that happens.
and you die, and then you wake up, and it's the right before you launch.
Dawn of the third day.
It's dude, it's not original, except it feels
Mm.
original. But yeah, it's very, very much Majora's Mask, except the game loop always ends on your player's death.
I really like that. Like that's very
Dude,
clever.
it is maybe the saddest game I've ever played when you complete it, especially if you find all of the. So I was going to say it's not essential, but it's really part of the core gameplay is these previous astronauts from your civilization that have basically gotten marooned or lost out into the universe.
Yeah.
Trying to explore the mystery of what's happened in your little solar system that you live in, and locating them all. They're marooned and lost in these far off places, playing their instruments, broadcasting out into the nothing, hoping that someone will find them.
Sure.
Some of them are very close by. Some of them are impossibly far away. But when you find all of them, you unlock the game's true ending, and it is by far like the saddest, sweetest, like kind of like one of those games that just like you kind of like rock back in your chair a little bit. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, that hit hard.
Right.
And I go back to it regularly because it's just fun. So the physics are crazy.
Yeah.
So like the universe is tiny, or the solar system that you're in is minuscule, and like the gravity is wild.
Yeah.
And so like like rocketing across this little solar system in your ship is like an absolute death wish, and it's hilarious. like there are the two closest planets to the star are locked, like tidally locked, like gravitationally.
Okay.
And one of them sucks the sand off the other one, and fill. So like the one is like at the beginning of the loop is hollow and basically like empty, and it's all canyons, and the other one is like this sandy desert.
Sure.
And then the sand gets sucked off of it and fills in all the canyons on the other one. Meanwhile, the one with all the sand starts shrinking down to a core at the very end of the cycle, and it explodes right before the sun explodes. And it's just like, so you can fly in and you can like get stuck in the vortex of sand flying from one to the other and get slammed into rocks and end up suffocating in space. It's super fun.
It reminds me of it's sounding increasingly like Interstellar, like the movie. Like it has that kind of vibe of just deep depression mixed with sort of interesting physics and science.
Yes.
That sounds amazing. That's like one of my favorite movies.
And so like, not to pull the curtain back too much, but because when you'd walked away, I was explaining kind of who'd done it. This is another Annapurna interactive game.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Sold.
It's you could replay it infinitely to explore things, even
Yeah.
though there is a set story that you're kind of intended to.
Sure.
Well, really, you're intended to uncover the mystery.
Yes.
It's at its heart is a mystery game.
Yeah.
But I go back to it regularly because I just think it's beautiful and hard and fun to fly around and crash into the sun. Anyway, sorry.
There you go. No, I love that. And yeah, I as mentioned with Kerbal Space Program, I also like crashing into the sun. So, all right. So I'll go on to my number one. Won't be surprising to anybody probably, but 1990, developed by Nintendo, Super Mario World. I play a really unhealthy amount of Super Mario World and have for 30 some years. It's funny because like the game is in no way intended this way. The game has an intended end state, but sort of built into the fabric, the core of the design of the game, it does enable different ways of play. And so every time I boot up the game, I sort of decide whether or not I'm going to try and go for a 100% run and get the star at the end of my save, or if I'm going to try and blaze through and try and get my quote-unquote speedrunner time. Although, oh my God, guys, like I think the best I've ever done is 12 minutes, and the actual legit speedrunners are down sub 10, and I'm like, how do you beat that game in less than 10 minutes? But anyway, it's a game that enables you to set your own difficulty by opening up different the color switches or not, which it gives you different looks at it from a difficulty perspective. It's a game that you can absolutely play in a variety of ways. It's a game that I have a ton of nostalgia for. It was the first console game that we ever owned. Through every like shitty phase of my life, whether I was able to get a new game or not, whether I was able to go to an arcade or not, whether I like was feeling good or not, whether something horrific had happened to me or not, I could always sit down, boot up Super Mario World, fucking lay on the fucking run button, blast to the right, and go through. Boy, I tell you what, emulation has really revolutionized the way I play that game too, like being able to remap A to one of the shoulder buttons so you actually can use the spin jump while you're running is amazing. And also I love and I'm really addicted to all of the ROM hacks. And if you're somebody who likes classic games and you haven't gone on romhacking.net, get your shit together and go on romhacking.net. One of the big complaints I had with Super Mario World is I'm not a huge fan of Yoshi's Island. I like it. I respect it. I think it's a good game. I just don't think it's a sequel to Super Mario World.
Same. I never liked Yoshi's Island either.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's just not... It's not how it was marketed here, which was as Super Mario World 2. It's not that game.
It's not.
And the fans have really stepped up and created some fantastic replacements for that. I mean, there's Return to Dinosaur Land, which please play that game. That game's fantastic. There's also Luigi's Adventure, which is really, really good. I'll put links in the show description to some of the different ROM hacks that I play regularly, and I do play a lot of them. And then, of course, there's the whole Kaizo Mario movement, which is creating the, like frame perfect precision platformer ROM hacks, which if you've played games like Celeste, or if you've played games like Super Meat Boy, or there's a ton of others that are like the modern precision platformers, those really all stem from Kaizo and from some of the things that people have been able to do with the Super Mario World engine. I mean, when I say Ocarina of Time is my favorite game, like the only thing that makes me have a twinge of the only thing that makes me have a twinge of regret or a doubt about that is Super Mario World, and it is a game that I absolutely, if like I'm having a shitty day and I just need to pour 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour into it, it's always my game. Now, Kirk, I know we already heard about yours, but do you have anything else that you wanted to mention about it? Or
no, Brian was just laughing because Benny over here, he was very daintfully like putting his watch down to not make any noise, and he was doing it so slowly and so subtly. I'm like, well, now I have to create chaos.
Now we have to fuck it up.
Yeah, now I have to create chaos just because, like, that was so, like, to me, it was so awkward just how slowly and deliberately he was putting
it's like
down.
My little bottle opener here, like, when I was putting that down, I was just like...
Yeah. But meanwhile, we've been, like, moving around and getting beers and stuff and creaking chairs. I'm like,
I know, like, we're trying to, like,
it's true.
we're, like, trying to sanitize the sound, but
Yeah,
Kurt just comes up and tips over a
yeah,
ball.
I'm like, that's
just on purpose.
Yeah, there you go.
He
There you
made
go, yeah.
he did like the classic like little kid or like cat thing, like fucking looked me in the eye and just like knocked it over. Just like looked at me like what do you think of that? Like,
It was like a cat. That was excellent. It was like,
No, that's my favorite game right there, is fucking with people. So there you go. There's my number one.
anytime I'm feeling stressed, I fuck with my friends.
Yeah, anytime I notice my friends being unusually weird, I'll fuck with them in some way just because, I got to bring them back to reality. Best game ever, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Take that, IGN or whoever. Anyways, Benny,
Benny, what's
your
yours?
number one?
feel weird following that.
That's excellent.
So mine is going to be more about the game that I go to in the hard times. And it's actually more of a series, but it is one in particular out of the series. So, I don't know when it started, but at some point I started playing Borderlands, and specifically Borderlands 2.
Okay.
Kind of like when I needed to shut my brain off.
Yeah.
Like when I really needed what was happening not to be happening in my brain actively at the moment.
Sure.
And it's such a chaotic, insane game, like full of, comedy, hilarity, explosions, sometimes even some heartfelt story moments. Borderlands 2 is an absolutely brilliant game in terms of story.
Was Ashley Burke in that one yet? Or did she not show up until...
No, that was the one where she's Tiny Tina.
Okay, cool.
In fact, that's like one of the crowning achievements of DLC content of pretty much any game is Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is one of the best DLCs ever. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember for some reason which DLC that one was part of on Borderlands. Sorry, I didn't mean to do
No, that's a... Yeah, she's one of the reasons why that game is great, because her character is... absolutely hilarious, and she's an adorable little lovable psycho. She's great.
It's a big contrast seeing her in Borderlands. Then you go to Horizons, Forbidden West, or any of those games, and she's Aloy, and it's like it's such a huge contrast. Just shows the versatility of her voice acting skills. But anyways,
absolutely,
she's a fantastic voice actress. But
the female John DiMaggio.
Yep, for real.
But I go to it when, like I said, when I need to shut my brain off.
Yeah.
And I often play it with a show that I'm very familiar with in the background.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to see anything that's going on with the show that I'm listening to in the background. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily need to focus on the dialogue or the cutscenes. So I can just play.
Yeah.
And they're rife with DLC, great DLC. The first Borderlands is a good game.
Yeah.
With no real ending. And I believe that they ran out of money. I think they the boss that they ended on, I think was kind of arbitrary. I don't think they intended to end the game where they did.
Yeah.
The DLC is pretty bland, but it's a great intro to the universe. Borderlands 2 has a succinct story from start to finish.
Sure.
Expands the universe and the mythos behind the vaults and everything.
Yeah.
Introduces characters that you learn to love and then learn to miss. Spoiler alerts. But it just is a game that I have gone back to dozens of times. Either restarted it or just kept up with the same character. Yeah. The replayability is insane because you can there are several difficulty levels up to a capped, or not a capped, but a final difficulty level that basically just involves modifiers that continue increasing enemy difficulty, and then you can continue incrementally bumping stats, because you've basically unlocked all your character tree. Your ability tree is basically open.
Yeah.
So you can do any combinations that you want, and then you're just unlocking incremental bumps to individual stats as you continue going. But it's basically infinitely replayable.
Yeah.
And that FPS element of it is pretty forgiving. So another one that's kind of like an honorable mention on my list, and maybe would have been on Kirk's, is Destiny, like Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's I can do that one as kind of like an AFK, just want to play something violent,
right?
to take some time, but not in the same way.
Yeah, and also, I did think about that. Thank you for bringing that up. But am I going to be playing it a year from now, 2 years from now, etc.?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
It's just like other games I brought up. Civ, they've been out for many years, and I still play.
Yeah.
But Destiny is a very good example. Yeah.
Borderlands just different.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll throw on Community as one of my favorites.
Nice.
I actually have specific memories of a couple of like, rough times, or like I can just think of specific places where I was in the game during specific episodes of the show while I was going through it, and they stand out in my memory.
Scrubs. Scrubs was always my side monitor
Yep.
thing I'd put on Scrubs.
Scrubs,
Or
Community,
Archer.
and
Archer's a
Futurama.
really good one too.
Yeah.
Archer's a really good one.
Yeah, well, because it's so dialogue driven.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't need to be
Absolutely.
looking at it.
Can you tell the kind of white guys we are?
Yeah, that could almost be its episode. Like, what do you have on your second monitor as you're playing?
Well, and
Oh
and,
shit! Yeah.
and so spoiler alert for possibly the next episode, but I'm going to be talking a little bit about the relationship I have with music and Star Wars Racer, which has some very, very deep and long-standing ties there. But that's awesome. Ben, anything else you wanted to mention about Borderlands 2?
Only that the game has one of the sickest and most memorable threats that I've ever heard, which is to point at someone and claim that they're going to be your new meat bicycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's excellent.
It might as well quick shout out to Ashley Birch. She what was that movie she did a long time ago? It was super independent. I have it on the Must Come Down. That was actually a good movie. I don't care what anyone says. That was a cute
I've never
flick.
seen that.
It doesn't really have a point, but it's a good movie.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
That'll be my takeaway.
yeah.
is
Look up Must Come Down.
I'll watch
Yeah.
Must Come Down,
Okay.
and I'll pick up No Man's Sky.
I like little indie. No Man's Sky or Outer Wilds.
Probably both, honestly, based on this conversation.
Do
I would say it depends on how much time you have, really.
for you, do Outer Wilds first.
Okay.
And then if you're still in the mood for space, get No Man's Sky.
I'm
Just for Brent specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get outer not the Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds.
Oh yeah, no. Okay. yeah, I got you. All right, well, hey, thank you guys so much. This has been fantastic, and thank you all for listening. Join our Discord and tell us why we're terribly wrong, and why when we're stressed we should play other games because we're stupid and bad. Or alternately, if you want to be less mean, you could tell us what games you play when you're stressed and have some time.
Yeah. Or you can be really mean and turn your go-to game into just fucking with us on social media. So you should do that. I think that'd be fun.
That would be awesome.
In fact, I might just do that. Fuck this show.
Yeah. Kirk's,
I'm done.
Kirk's
quit.
kicks the chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kirk's gonna start insulting our mothers and just make it real personal and
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. That's gonna be the greatest game ever.
Comment sections never do that, so
No.
Kirk's here to do that.
No one's ever said anything mean about anyone in the comment sections. That will be new. So there you go. If you want something new and fun to do, insult us personally in the comment sections of our YouTube.
God, I welcome that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, honestly, I just want engagement. Just give me engagement.
I just, my wife's gonna get on there now, and she's like, "This show is fucking stupid." And I'll be like, "Thanks, honey."
Believe me, we know. We know it's stupid. It's okay, but we love you anyway. All right, thank you, and from everyone here at the Games That Made Us podcast, have a great rest of your day.
Adios.
Yeah, find out how fast you can run with a boner.
Yeah, and report back. We've got a clipboard.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still think you can run faster backwards with a boner.
I can't run at all backwards.
Well, I mean, comparatively, then running.
Not
I think it's less
specifically.
awkward to run backwards with a boner. What are we
God
doing?
damn it!
Yeah.
Now Brent's gonna sprint backwards with a boner, fall over, and then hoist a flagpole on this day of our nation.
I have sandals on. I can't run backwards now at all. Bye.
And so,
We wouldn't have Nirvana without the Pixies.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you care about Nirvana.
Ooh, ouch.
That's fair. I was
Well,
gonna say,
we
No,
wouldn't
I'm sorry.
I was always a Chains fan myself, but that's
I
that's
just-
what
we
it is.
wouldn't have Foo Fighters without
Well,
Nirvana.
okay.
So
I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say like, but Dave Grohl's pretty great. So.
Dave Grohl is pretty great.
don't have Oasis without the Beatles.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have Queens of the Stone Age without Nirvana.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. Queens of the Stone Age. Anyway, I know what I'm going to
Moving on.
I know what I'm going to be listening to later.